Uh, Good afternoon. My name is Kelvin Thompson. I'm the Member for Wills in the Australian Parliament. It is my pleasure to invite our speakers to come to the stage, and we will shortly have the Welcome to Country by Auntie Joy. So we will be able to make a start presently.
I'll do the introduction. I'll do it this way.
Auntie Joy will now do the Welcome to Country.
Waminjaka, Wurundjeri Balak, Yemen, Kundibek. Welcome to the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. My father's country, the land of my ancestors, the land of myself, my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren. May I pay my respects to all of our ancestors that have gone well before us, but thank them for the legacy that they've given us. May I also acknowledge each and every one of you that are here today and say what a wonderful privilege it is yet again and for me to have this wonderful opportunity to be with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Could I also acknowledge Chris Hooper and the Melbourne Press for arranging this wonderful event, and not only that, bringing joyful and fulfilment to our lives, because I know since my last meeting with His Holiness that I've been given something that's extremely very special and very personal. The Welcome to Country can be done in many ways, but from the Wurundjeri people here, it means that we belong to the manigum, a tree that has the very strongest roots in the ground, a tree that has this enormous strength in its trunk, a tree that has branches, and many of them, bold and very learned. And then we have trillions of leaves. Those leaves are the gesture of our welcome. It's about inviting to someone, anyone, everyone, to take a leaf from these branches. And I may offer one of these leaves to His Holiness. With His Holiness accepting the leave, it means yes? Oh, do you want me to do that? Thank you, His Holiness. On acceptance of the leave, it means that His Holiness is welcome to everything from the tops of the trees to the roots of the earth. It also means that His Holiness is now joined with us to pay his respects and honour the spirits of our ancestors who have nurtured this land for thousands of years. My language is the Woiwurrung, and indeed, again, it is my greatest privilege to welcome you to the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. Thank you.
Thank you, Auntie Joy. The story of the refugee continues this afternoon with our speaker, Kuk Lam from Vietnam. Since her arrival in Australia as a refugee from the south of Vietnam in 1978, Kuk Lam has been involved with various non-profit organisations: the Northwest Migrant Resource Centre, School Council President of the Western English Language School, Western Regional Health Centre's Board of Directors, Multicultural Consumer Action Forum and the Western Region Ethnic Council. Cook has been employed by 3 public service departments. She is currently with Centrelink as a Multicultural Services Officer. Cook is a former councillor of Maribyrnong City Council. She is very keen to help migrants and refugees settle in Australia. Her own experiences have shown that it can be difficult to successfully settle in a new country without great effort and individual sacrifice. Kuk Lam.
His Holiness, Dalai Lama, Shanga, Mant, Nuns, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. The refugees' experience has been for me about believing in and seeking freedom. Every individual deserves this right. But for some, and for myself and my husband, it came at the highest price and sacrifice. A sacrifice of what we knew and were familiar with, our sisters, brothers, country and cultures, to embracing something new and unknown and initially frightening, but well worth it. Today, I would like to share my journey in search for freedom and security. After the fall of South Vietnam to the Communist North in 1975, my husband and I embarked on a series of attempts to escape our war-torn country. Our first few attempts was planned on a fishing boat, disguised as a fisherman and fishwoman. They were unsuccessful, and twice we were almost caught. This left me feeling depressed and almost lost all hope. But believing what we deserve, freedom, and wanting a future for our children, we had strong faith and commitment. We kept trying, and on May 1978, our plan to escape, disguised as a fisherman and fishwoman again, with 32 others on the Refugee River vegetable boat in was finally successful. This is the boat that we travel with, a river boat. We crouched among farms of watermelons, lemons, oranges, and chestnuts inside the river boat. We managed to skip past the communist patrol that night and enter the Arab Sea. The only water we all had to share among us would only last for 2 days. We managed to survive with fruit until our boat. On the 5th day, we met a big ship from England bypassed us. They were kind toward us and supplied us with raw lamb and a cordial. Few supplied to us to keep us going. We could not cook the lamb, and the cordial was too concentrated to quench our thirst. On the 6th day, we met a Malaysian Navy ship. We explained our flight to the captain, who accepted us as genuine refugees, fleeing South Vietnam in search for freedoms. They towed us toward Tibet Island in Malaysia, where we lived in the refugee camp for about 4 weeks. At this point, I was 3 months pregnant. There was very little to eat in the camp, a small portion of rice and fish only. After 4 weeks, we were lucky to have an interview with United Nations High Commission and the Australian delegation, and we were accepted to come to Australia, Melbourne. I remember stepping out of the aeroplane and feeling like a bird out of the cage. It was winter and freezing, but it was my first breath of freedom. We were set to live in Midway Hostel in Melbourne. Settlement in a new country was not an easy. I had to work 2 jobs while pregnant, and I also studied part-time. I remember bringing my baby, my son, to the lecture and studying while rocking him to sleep. In the first few years, I felt was unwelcome here. The attitude towards us is make my heart hurt and sink. But I wanted to so badly to overcome with attitude and this barrier, and I wanted to contribute to the country that gave me and my family freedom. I have to make the right choice, and very proud to be a Vietnamese Australian. And thank you very much for sharing my story.
Our second speaker this afternoon is Dr. Burhan Ahmed. At the age of 15, Burhan Ahmed became a refugee from Eritrea. He was fortunate to be awarded a scholarship to study in Egypt, and in 1987 came to Australia as a refugee with little English. He began working as a tram conductor to learn about Australian society and practice English. From these humble beginnings, he has gone on to complete a PhD in agricultural science and is now a senior research fellow at the University of Melbourne. He has been instrumental in building bridges between the African and wider Australian communities, forging relationships with politicians, community, business leaders and philanthropic organisations. He encourages people to focus on the things that unite us as human beings, not the superficial differences. He initiated and implemented a number of projects for Melbourne's African community to raise the standard of living, educational engagement and achievement, level of employment and integration. Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you, Calvin. Thank you very much for asking me to speak here today with His Holiness Dalai Lama, a great man I had respect. And I'm also delighted to share my experience as a refugee. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, first I would like to make a start by acknowledging the traditional owners of this land, their elders past and present, because I know what it means, land, to live in and to belong to. I lost it as a refugee, and I honor it, the people, the land, and the spirit of this nation for what it gave me. Thinking about the unplanned, endless journey of my refugee life. While every refugee story and personal anguish is different, all refugees share a common thread of uncommon courage. The courage not only to survive, but also to preserve and rebuild their shattered life and identities. And what can I get more example than the Holiness, having his identity shrining and explaining to the world how someone can stand with respect with identity and belongings. My long journey to begin as a refugee began with the massacre of civilians and bombardment of villages and towns upon the order of the Ethiopian government in 1987. I was not among the first refugees to leave Eritrea at the time. Unfortunately, the people who meant to protect me as a child made me an enemy, marked me as a traitor, targeted me and my family for persecution, detention, abduction, torture, and intimidation. The hardest part at a time of unknown journey was the decision of my mother and father to let me go as a child to a place we just assume it will be the best place to be. And the worst of all, in the current political climate when we talk about smugglers, at a time when you don't have a choice, the only choice is between staying in the war or dying, or getting someone who can take you wherever safe place. That person can be anything, from a very honest and sincere person to a criminal, but you don't have a choice to choose with whom to go. I ended up in the border of Sudan with no documents, hoping the authorities will accept me. I came to their mercy, compassion, and humanity. Thanks, I was allowed to enter Sudan. I started my education, but my experience as a refugee covers a period of socialization in different cultures, languages. And that gave me to learn when you don't know the language, the only way to get the door open is to smile. And the only way I learned that because that was the only language I knew when I was a child to get my way into the system. And also explore the process of psychological transition as a child in a state of refugeehood, to accept to be a refugee. I argue that in order to survive as a refugee, one has to acquire an identity that is alien to his or her own origin, which made him a refugee. This is something I do not have a choice through my retaining my identity. I had to pay a high price in order and put some personal sacrifices. In my journey as a refugee, I have been thinking about my identity. Which culture would I belong? I passed through a number of countries. I was Ethiopian when I was born. Then I left as an Eritrean. I went to Sudan, Egypt, and then Australia. What does it mean to be either of these? Where do I belong? What is my culture? Whose society do I belong? Because of my Australian passport, does it mean I am an Australian? Would I have that identity embraced on me? Those sort of questions every now and then comes to me in trying to identify and help my colleagues, refugees, to identify their identity and to be belonging to what they are. In that process also, it is common. Some of the problems can be observed in communities that have been sometimes settled in Australia. And for example, when you think about the Lebanese and the Vietnamese share a number of subjective experience, in particular the children, adolescents, who have grown in protracted exile who have been found to experience similar in terms of family dynamics and cultural identity, which is now most of my African youth are going through that experience in finding themselves who they are, where they are, and who can they be. Since arrival in this country, I've shared the goals, the values, the freedoms, the culture that make Australia and the mateship the forms that cornerstone of this beautiful country. I have taken to my heart and this new country and improved my surrounding, the freedoms to share in the value that make Australia such a wonderful country. And also in return, Australians have shown me their goodness, spirit of communal concern, compassion, zeal towards better understanding of me and my colleagues in the refugee communities, the newcomers, and people far from other places whose culture and lifestyle differ from the Australian system. Was that acceptance that built in me the confidence to build on what I was given the opportunity in this land of opportunities. We have been generally accepted as Africans, as refugees in this country, at all levels of society here, and given me a lot of support for most of our resettlement. And I was one of the examples, but many are in the pipe that are endeavoring to contribute to the best of this country. I take this opportunity to place our collective thanks to this country, our appreciation, our feelings of greatness for the support, care, compassion given to us as individuals and as community. But I would like also to make, when I see people floating in the sea and not being accepted, it still makes me cry, because I know what it means to be in that sort of situation, and I passed it, and I would like to see people to be treated with dignity. Before closing, I just want to say my real hero man, Mandela, has said in his speech, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measures. And this is what creates the refugee. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Susanna Salo from Burma. Susanna's involvement with the All Burma Democratic Lushai Women's Organisation, a peaceful group that educated local women about democracy and human rights, sealed her fate. In 2000, her identity was given up by a colleague who was captured and tortured by the government of Burma, or junta, who had seized military rule over the country in 1962. When the junta raided her home, Susanna's husband was arrested and imprisoned. He was never charged with any offence, nor was he given a trial. He died in prison. A neighbour who witnessed the arrest was able to get word to Susanna. They had come for her. With the prospect of imprisonment, torture, death awaiting her return home, she collected her 3 children, the youngest only 7 months old, and her nephew, and headed for the Indian border. They were smuggled by jeep most of the way before crossing into India on foot. She sought refugee protection through the United Nations High Commission for Refugees and was accepted along with her children and nephew. She is now a permanent resident of Australia. Susanna.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so honoured today that I am here to bring out a message to you. I never have this opportunity before that I can be the voice today for the other refugee. I have been here in Australia for 2.5 years, and I have seen so much love, so much protection from everywhere, that I stand here before you today. I feel my country 10 years ago with my children, with the only clothes that we have. And I have a hand out there. I can't tell everything step by step, but there's so many things one have to go through as a refugee, especially when you have children and you are a woman. You have to do things that you normally won't do, but you have to do it because you have to survive. We struggle at the border for 2.5 years. And then because there is no camp in India for refugees, we have to do self-survive. You have to survive or you die. In 2.5 years, I saved enough money to go to New Delhi to seek the protection from UNHCR. But even then, I couldn't take all my children. So I went along with my younger daughter, who was 7 and 2.5 years at that time. Then when we went to New Delhi, we applied, but we have to wait for a long time. I was given an appointment at 2005, 12th of April. Then my other children came down and we have the appointment and we have the interview. We were accepted as refugee in 2005, 18 October. Even then in Delhi, there is lots and lots of problems. You don't have the paper, you have no home, you have no work. But I'm not the only one that is struggling. There are lots and lots other there. But even though I said I struggle, I'm sorry because I am a bit sick. I just came out of hospital, so my mouth is a bit dry. Please understand me. Everyone knows refugee, refugee, refugee. But life is so different. Refugee means you lost everything that you have had, you have loved. You are just like a newborn child kept in a desert. You have to survive. In Delhi, life is not easy, but I'm much better off because I speak English and Hindi and some of the Indian language. So I can walk a bit, but it is not easy for a woman because your employer wants more than what you can give. But you cannot keep on changing job or your children will go hungry. There are times that I want to kill myself and let it go, but I can't because I have children to take care. The only thing I have was my belief in the Lord, that one day soon this will end. But I don't know when, but I believe in my Lord up there. He sees what I go through. And all I can ask was, Lord, let it end soon. And after to put a long story short, we came to Australia in 2008 on the 15th of October, 2.5 years ago. We are so blessed that we have come here. But unluckily, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer after 5 months. But still, I say, Lord, I came to this country and I thought I'm going to find happiness. Why? But then, I'm much luckier than everyone. I still am lucky because in this country, I don't have to pay for my medical treatment because if it was in India, there was no way that I can go to for my checkup, for my health, okay? So here, the country, I get everything, and today I'm here before you. And I can't say that I have achieved a lot in this, like my other friends here, but today I say I achieved because I'm the voice for the other refugees back there who are suffering, and I bring their message to you. Please be a voice, do good, because there are so many of them waiting for their chance to get out of that hellhole. Please keep on doing Thank you, Australia, because you have given me so much. And please give a chance to those other unfortunate. Please bring a smile in those sad, lost faces. Thank you. And I hope.
Thank you, Susanna. Our next speaker is Frank Wronji. Frank Wronji was born in China in 1964 and joined the democratic movement of Tiananmen Square in 1989. After the massacre in Tiananmen Square, he was persecuted by the Chinese Communist authorities and he left China for Australia as a refugee in 1998. In Australia, he continued his involvement in the Chinese democratic movement, and he is the president of the Chinese Democratic Party Australia. He contacted the Tibetan community in Australia in 2004, and in 2009, responding to the call of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he participated in the establishment of the Tibetan and Chinese Friendship Association Melbourne and is now its General Secretary. Frank has established a Chinese newspaper, Tiananmen Times. In every issue of Tiananmen Times, he offers a page to the Tibetan community to share their information. Frank.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy here today to tell my story. What was the day of last Saturday? Last Saturday is the 4th of June. 22 years ago, the Chinese Communist government killed over 2,000 my classmates, my schoolmates, in Tiananmen Square. This is we call the Tiananmen Square massacre. I am very lucky. I am one of the survivors. And after this massacre, I lost my job. I had to go back to my small mountain village to live with my own parents. They support my living for 2 years. And I went to Australia in 1998. Now, I am the owner of a Chinese newspaper, and I'm the public officer of the Chinese Democratic Learning School in Melbourne. I enjoy the life here. I love Australia. Thanks, Australia, for my good life here. But I still have my dream. A dream is the same of His Holiness Dalai Lama. The same dream. One day we can go back to China, our homeland. I just one day I can go back to China to see my small mountain village where I grew up. In 2004, my mother was sick and nearly died. The day she was dying, all the children of my mother had 6 children, except me. Everyone was standing around her. But before she died, she kept her head forward to the front door of the house, and her eyes opened very big and stared at the front doors and calling my name, his first son. After that, my sister told me this story. Every day, the story in my heart. I just want someday because after I came to Australia, I still involved in the Chinese democratic movement, and I am not allowed, not permitted to enter China by the communist government for many years. I miss my hometown, I miss China. And I just want someday I can go back to China and go back to the small village and kneel down in front of the tomb of my mother and say, sorry, mother. This is my dream. I wish it become true soon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Frank. In 2007, when I first met the Dalai Lama, we were in Canberra in Parliament House, and members and senators were invited to ask questions. And the first question was from a New South Wales senator. It was a really serious question about the geopolitical situation in Asia-Pacific region. And the second question was from me, and I said, Your Holiness, what is the key to happiness? And His Holiness, I thought it was a pretty good question, and he had a pretty good answer. He said, 8 or 9 hours sleep each night. And two years later, when I next met His Holiness in Melbourne, I asked him, what is the key to 8 or 9 hours sleep each night? And he said, yes, it's not easy. He said, I worry a lot. Well, I worry a lot too, but it doesn't help me sleep. But His Holiness does worry a lot. He worries about his people, his country. Last night I launched a book, The Secret History of Democracy, and the central proposition of that book is that democracy is not simply about the Greeks, the Magna Carta and the French Revolution, that it is not a peculiarly Western construct, but that a yearning for democracy burns bright in the breasts of people right around the world. And I think there can be no greater example of that than His Holiness, whose steadfastness, strength, resolve, energy, patience in the conviction that his people are entitled to a say in the decisions that govern their lives has been an inspiration to all of us for many years. And I also think that there is no one better qualified to talk about the refugee experience or to respond to the compelling stories we've heard this afternoon than His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Member of Parliament, Member of Parliament, no. And then fellow refugee brothers and sisters, and of course, brothers, sisters. I have some kind of, say, different sort of experience sitting with some refugees from different parts of the world and telling us their own stories, sad stories. So it reminds me also, now last more than 52 years, and not only one single, the concern on a single refugee, but the entire refugee community. Over 100,000 or 106, around 160,000. And also my own sort of experiences. So while I listen, their stories reflect these things in my mind. So one way, sad. My own case, at the age of 16, I lost my freedom, or our freedom. Then age 24, lost our own country. As a refugee, a lot of problems. Meantime, we all express, in spite of difficulties, with determination, optimistic sort of attitude. Now finally, you reach successful sort of life. Not only you yourself, manage well, but also show others the possibility if each individual, without losing hope and courage, you can overcome this problem. So wonderful sort of occasion. Listen. Then I always look, refugee problem, also very serious problem, and taking care about these stateless people. And I think at the beginning, their life full of uncertainty. But this organization really taking care, provide them hope and education and every possibility. So I very much appreciate all those people who really taking care about the refugee. But you see, we have to sort of look the source of that sort of problem. Unless we tackle that, refugee problem remain continuously. So then, I feel solving this problem through sort of knowledge, through sort of through education, through knowledge, may not solve this problem. Ultimately, I believe most of these problems is actually due to lack of moral principle within the country or relation with other neighbor. Always is carrying these sort of activities out of greed and hatred. And that's why the endless refugees. Sometimes due to disaster, some refugees, there is something, a major disaster, there is something different. But many cases, the leadership or concerned government, the lack of moral principle, don't care about others' right. So that creates a lot of problem. So, and this refugee in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia, even in Europe. So, people here, now I think time comes, we have to think, sense of global responsibility. Australia, you Australians accept the natural disaster, a lot of flood. And I just come from New Zealand, the Christchurch, due to earthquake. But generally, you see, these both countries very peaceful. Because of the prosperity. Prosperity. But you have to think whole globe because of the global guy. So I think sometimes a smaller nation can make more effective role to better world. So that I want to tell you. Then as a refugee, of course first, because of the Vietnamese. This morning I mentioned there, Vietnamese, we Tibetan, we said we are follower of Buddhism, generally. And also, you see, we both passing through difficult period, difficult sort of circumstances. So in any way, those Vietnamese who now found a new home in a free world, they really carry their spirit, their cultural heritage, including Buddhism, preservation of their own culture, these things. So very capable, sort of the people. Then Eritrea, sorry. My knowledge, very limited, but from time to time I heard through BBC. Otherwise, you see, but in Africa, also now changing. And recently, the Northern African states, really much change take place. So these, I think, people, younger generation, more awareness and more courage to fight their own right. And also the more sort of attraction, democracy. I often used to telling people, world belongs to humanity. Like Australia belongs to Australian people, not this party or that party. And certainly, you see, the nation not belongs to spiritual leaders or royal families. No. Country belongs to the people. Then the best way to rule people by the people is democratic system. In spite of some drawbacks, democratic system is the best system in order to rule the country by the people, for the people. So this is really a wonderful sort of this system. So everywhere, Asia, Africa, and everywhere. Now, I think I think people get, more and more sort of desire to develop democracy out of their awareness. I think very, very encouraging. Now in Burmese case, also, I think under the leadership of Aung San Suu Kyi, one Nobel laureate, I always admire her courage in spite so many years of difficulties. She never give up. Her sort of determination, very strong. So, and Burma also, you see, the people really try to fight for democratic sort of society. And then China. Of course, the communist authoritarian system. There's not case of some sort of individual, due to individual person, then that system developed, not that way. But the whole ideology, because of the certain, what I don't know how to say, the institutionalized or authoritarian system is not easy. However, the people's desire freedom. In early 50s, when I was in Peking and many big cities like Shanghai, Nanjing, Chongqing, and many other sort of places, at that time, those party members, including Mao Zedong, they are really dedicated people. They really work for working class people. Then, around 56, 55, 56, that genuine sort of spirit, Marxist spirit, then spoiled by power. So eventually, then that dictatorship, without much compassion. So that's the problem. The problem, that is the source of the problem. So then, in 56, the suppression start in Tibetan area, also Xinjiang. And then finally, 59, as far as Tibet is concerned, then things become really extremely difficult. Then we escape. Then soon after, Cultural Revolution. A lot of damage, a lot of destruction. And after things have been rehabilitated, then things are changed. In early 80s, there was real hope. When Huiyangpang there, things have been there. But then soon, I think mid-80s, 80s, 85, 86, democratic movement start some of the universities. Then their government sort of a policy become hardened. Huiyangpang also dismissed. Then finally, Tiananmen event happened. However, since then, the party fully controlled the people's physical, but the people's mind it cannot control. So the voice of freedom, democracy, year by year increasing. And also those Chinese refugees who, they found a new home, whether in Australia, whether in Europe, whether in America, Canada, a number of the Chinese, whether they openly state or not, most of the Chinese in free country, in deep inside, they really want more free China. And within China, like Liu Xiaobo and some others, those writers or philosophers or thinkers and some artists, they really now expressing China needs change. Even Prime Minister Wan Xiaobao, last, I think, 2 years, he number of occasions he expressed publicly, China need change in political system. So voice about freedom, about democracy, year by year increasing. So as a result, the authoritarian system, government, is very busy to try to control. But I think that may sort of may remain a few years, but the human mind, control human mind is very difficult. Reasons, the logical things bring change human mind. Logical and reasons with affection, with friendship, human mind can change. By force, human mind never can change, never control. That's the fact. So things will change. Things will definitely change. Once people go to China, become a more open society, then definitely Burma, definitely some effect will come, and North Korea. And certainly the Vietnam themselves now really start some change. But eventually, I think the whole Asia, like European continent, I think change will come. So we refugees from the totalitarian sort of system, we have plenty of reasons to be optimistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Holiness. Can I assure you or reassure you that my political party does not regard itself as owning Australia? Although I've been a federal MP for a while, some people think I'm a traditional owner of my electorate. I saw, as I was coming in here, I saw a bumper sticker on a car which said, "The best things in life aren't things." And I thought that is a very Buddhist bumper sticker, and people are obviously aware that His Holiness the Dalai Lama is in town, and that's a very encouraging sign. We really value the opportunity to hear from you your special brand of wisdom and insight and experience, and above all, optimism, that optimistic note on which you finished your remarks. And on behalf of everyone here, it's my great pleasure to thank you for your response and remarks this afternoon. Can I also thank Auntie Joy for her welcome to country, and thank our speakers, Cook, Burhan, Susanna and Frank, who have brought to us very powerful, moving, compelling stories, and reminding us again and alerting us to the circumstances which cause people to flee their own country, and the special and unique contributions which refugees have made and continue to make to this country following their arrival. Can I also thank the Melbourne Press Club for their role in hosting this afternoon's event, and all the people who have worked so hard to organise it and to make it such a success. I also want to thank my staffer, Nosrat Hassini, who was responsible for the slideshow that you've been able to witness earlier in the afternoon, bringing its own eloquent testimony to both the plight and the contribution made by refugees in this country. So, Your Holiness, thank you once again. You are always very welcome in Melbourne. You make a marvellous contribution to this city and to this world. Thank you.
One few sentences I want to share with you. As I mentioned earlier, world or country not belongs to the royal family or spiritual leaders. Since my childhood, I developed some attraction about democracy. Particularly 1954, I went to China. I was the member of, member of the parliament, Chinese parliament. And then eventually I appointed a deputy chairman, one of the deputy chairman of the steering committee of the People's Congress. So I have some experience, the way function of the communist sort of parliament. Everybody very much disciplined, talk less, and sometimes sleep. Then 1956, I came to India. I had opportunity to visit India and also visit Indian Parliament, full of noise, looks no discipline. Everybody is eager to speak, and not only speak, but also eager to criticize government. I'm very much impressed. That's the freedom of speech, freedom of thought. So after I came to India, 1959, from 60, we at once start work for democratization. Then 2001, we already achieved elected political leadership. Since then, my position is semi-retired position. Now 10 years passed. During this period, refugee community, their sort of sense of democracy and sense of participation in democratic process, quite remarkable. So quite mature. So then I thought, now time come. The semi-retired position must produce complete retirement. So last March, I stated, and I request our extra parliament, now time come. 4-century-old tradition, Dalai Lama institution, as a sort of head of both political, spirituality, now that must end. So I, 14 Dalai Lama, voluntarily, happily, proudly end the 4-century-old tradition. Now we fully sort of enjoy genuine, complete democracy, democratic system. So eventually, in Tibet also, eventually, I think, I hope, democratic system can establish, can practice. And that also, People's Republic of China as a whole, one day, democratic government will come, it should come. So sometimes at this moment, we cannot do much, only pray. But whatever level, we can sort of educate people. Democratic system is the best system. And particularly like China, huge country, 1.3 billion population, and different ethnic groups. Each one have their own culture. Look, India, East India, West Indian, South, North, different language, different script even, and different culture. But no danger of disintegrate because of the rule of law and democracy, freedom of speech. So I often telling Chinese brothers, sisters, look, India, if you give them respect, trust, no danger due to different sort of different sort of language or different script and different culture. Some of the communist hardliner, very short-sighted, narrow-minded, even one-party meeting, one-party secretary in Tibet, he mentioned ultimate source of threat, Tibet being separate from mainland China, is Tibetan Buddhist faith. After all, in China, millions of Buddhists there. Buddhism, before reaching Tibet, already reached in mainland China, like that. So that's not danger. But because they are over suspicion, so that kind of attitude, and such attitude, how can develop harmonious society? Present President of China, Hu Jintao, very much emphasis the promotion of harmonious society. And that effort is very good. That goal is very right, very scientific. But harmony will not come by physical control, but harmony comes from heart. The basis of harmony is trust, mutual respect. Use more force, bring more fear, that destroy mutual trust. Like that. So that I want. My main sort of point is, now I voluntarily entered the 4th century-old Kasachuri tradition. I feel, you see, a little bit sort of uncomfortable. I always telling people, religious institution, political institution must separate. While I'm telling other people, I myself combine. That's a hypocritical way, hypocrisy. So what I believe, I must implement. So in spite of some sort of, uncomfortable feeling among Tibetans. In spite of that, I finally seek sort of permission from our parliament. So finally, they asked me. Then again, I declined. Then finally, all the big gathering, meeting, I explain whole background, and also I use some strong word. Then finally, I win. Thank you.
Well done, that's terrific. Thank you. Bye-bye. Secular tradition for Tibet. Yes. First, for you. Our tradition. Thank you. Thank you very much. Very kind. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Cameraman there, no problem.
Beautiful story.
Thank you.
He's going to come down here and do photograph on angle there.
So,
There you go. Okay. go. It's the value of being a speaker. All right, we better come down.
Your lunch? Already finished? Not yet. So then enjoy your lunch. Thank you.
I was wondering when he talked about the Chinese parliamentarians falling asleep in Parliament whether he wasn't giving me a clue about how to get that 8 or 9 hours a night, but don't know what my constituents would make of that. We were able to stay here until 2:30, so people may feel free to stay or to leave as they see fit. Finally, I'd like to thank all of you for coming along this afternoon and for supporting this event, which is, of course, one of those things which makes the Dalai Lama's visit to Melbourne possible. So thank you to all of you. Thank you.